Tamara Thomas, editor-in-chief of UrbanHealthToday.com, part of the DocWire family of medical news sites, and I want to thank you for tuning in to Urban Health Weekly. Our goal each week is to keep you informed of the latest in health and medical news right from today's headlines. It's time to empower yourself with open conversations about your medical care with news that matters to you. So are you ready? Let's get started. Hi, I'm Tamara Thomas, and welcome to Urban Health Weekly, where we talk about medical news and health topics that matter to you. I'm here with Jackie and Lou. How are you guys?
Hey, we're good over here.
All good.
So we were just talking about this doctor on Twitter. Glaucomflecken is his name.
Something
He's
like
got
that.
like 500,000. He's got 500,000 followers, and he does comedy, like doctor comedy.
Mm-hmm.
And
Okay.
A lot of the stuff he covers is like, you know how the journals, the like JAMA and the Lancet and all of them, they actually charge doctors to publish their work, and then they have no rights. So they have to write.
What? I didn't know they charged doctors to publish their work.
It's big business. It's big money.
To publish?
Yes. So you as a doctor, you write the study, or you and a team of doctors writes the study, because writing studies is part of your job.
Okay.
Then you, in order to get into the prestigious journals, you have to pay the journal for your submission. So if they
What? I didn't know that.
It's the biggest racket. So in any event, so he makes, so not only do you have to pay, after you pay, they now own your stuff, and you can't use it commercially or for anything. So you can't use it for lectures. You can't use it for, like, if you want to just use it for public interest, like, you don't own it anymore. So you've paid.
Wait. If you got to make a lecture, you can't reference your own
You
stuff?
cannot reference it. Well, you have to pay them if you want.
Oh, they get like a fee, like a royalty?
Yes, on your own.
Oh my God. So I guess the only reason to publish would be to advance science and for prestige.
Yeah. Well, you're doing it. You're paying that because they're saying, it's kind of like the Playboy model, where they say, well, we're not going to pay you because being in Playboy is going to raise your profile.
Yeah.
It's that same model, except you're paying them. So I don't know if you.
What a racket!
Oh my God, it is so gangster. I can't even. So this guy Glaucomflecken, he makes these little skits with himself where he plays all the characters and basically makes fun of that whole model, and kind of like, turning it on its head and like making people like think, well, wait a minute. You're right. DocWire came across this guy, right? And
referred him over to us.
He is funny. Anyway, I don't know if I said his name wrong, Dr. Glaucomflecken.
We will include a link.
We'll include a link to his Twitter. It's not really disparities, but I guess it's kind of the disparity, because if you don't have the thousands of dollars to pay, one of the big.
I think it is a disparity, because if you don't have.
That's what I'm getting ready to say. I'm getting ready to say you're right. You can go ahead and say it.
Well, I think it's a monetary disparity, that if you don't have the thousands of dollars to pay to have your work published, or don't have a major institution backing you, your research and your thoughts just don't count. They will not be seen in the academic.
And that's a lot of the reason why disparities, which have been around a long time, are only now coming to the forefront, because there's just never been any money behind it to pay these institutions to even put them in the magazine. So
wait, how did they come up with the money to publish before? How were the researchers? Really, was that part of their grants?
So really the only ones, if you had a big institution backing you.
The institution paid the fee?
Right, exactly. The institution pays the fee because they are the ones you're doing it's all this prestige thing. So you're doing the research, under their institution's heading. And so they pay that fee for you. And so that means that only the big institutions who can afford to pay those fees get their works published. And
if you want to be somebody who's a great researcher, you really need to be hooked up with an institution.
With an institution, exactly.
Right.
If you're a small institution, or you're a city-run institution, and you want to write about things that are not of interest to the big institutions, guess what? You're not getting published, or you're going to get published by some like obscure journal.
Right.
Okay.
You know,
Wow.
and I'm going to include a story here that actually
Gangsta.
about, more than 3 decades ago. I had the privilege to work with an editor-in-chief that was a Nobel Prize winner, and it was for a major journal. I'm not going to name the journal or name that editor, even though he's deceased now for a while. And we would get the submissions. This is before electronic submissions. We would get a big box full of submissions every day.
Wow.
And I asked them, well, who goes through all of this? He goes, oh, I do. And I go, how do you read all of this? This comes in every day. And he goes, oh, watch me. So he would sit and just sort.
Wow.
He would sort the envelopes and make one big pile and make a small pile. And I would ask him, well, what you do? He goes, oh, I look at the return address. If it's not an institution or an institution that can do top-notch research, I automatically reject you. And the 95% of the stuff would go in box A, and his assistant would have like a custom rejection letter. We looked at your work, however, we're rejecting you. He'd only read the percentage that was from the big institution.
You see?
Oh, wow.
I was there. I saw it, and
it keeps the ivory tower very ivory.
Yes.
So it wasn't like a case of like, watch me read this, like I'm going to demonstrate my speed reading skills. It wasn't that. It was like,
now, academic publishing has come a long way. They, some of the more scrupulous publishers now have blind submissions, now have it's all electronic, so they keep track and make sure that there isn't a lot of prejudice. But I'll tell you that even that has its flaws.
I was gonna ask. They can't possibly be really blind.
Yeah,
right.
Not all of it is as blind as you would think, because there's always, hey, I just submitted my paper, send it to me. There's a lot of that goes on.
Okay, sure.
But back in the day, it was all, it was all at the whim, and people would just look at your institution, and your top-notch journals would just not consider you.
Yeah, that's
wow.
So anyway, he kind of pokes his finger in the eye of that whole thing, and people are starting to like catch on, like, yeah, this is kind of this is raw. So just interesting. I would love to interview this guy because I like his perspective. This is really funny. Anyway, I'm gonna add his Twitter handle to Urban Health Weekly when we put this up. So let's do it. New study links gut bacteria to cognitive function. Scientists are discovering that many ways in which the microorganisms living in the human gastrointestinal tract can influence health. These organisms, collectively called the microbiome, are incredibly diverse, and there has been an explosion of research studies investigating this fascinating link over the past few years. Researchers from the United States have recently analyzed data from a large cross-sectional study and found a link between gut microbial composition and cognition status in middle-aged adults. The participants were recruited from 4 centers across the US as part of the CARDIA, which is Coronary Artery Risk Development in Young Adults Study. Scientists believe that short-chain fatty acids, those are the ones like you find in fermented foods like yogurt and sauerkraut, play a part in regulating how the gut and brain interact. That is, the gut-brain axis. In animal studies, short-chain fatty acids appear to be protective against vascular dementia and cognitive impairment. Scientists are also starting to come around to inflammation being responsible for Alzheimer's and dementia. Like you're seeing a lot more of that. And this gives new meaning to the term food for thought, in my opinion. I just really hope that if they don't think that their body is affected by the food that they eat, they should really think about their mind. It's still one of the areas of the body that modern science has not come up with solutions for, because there's just so much about the brain we don't know. But I'll tell you this, maybe you've decided that your body breaking down is part of being old, or are you also willing to give up your mind in the process?
Yeah, that's the problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thoughts?
What's considered middle age, by the way?
Middle age is considered like what, your 40s, your 50s.
I would call it 80s.
So what are you then?
I'm young, man.
You're young.
He's just a baby.
Right. I'll be a middle age in 20 years.
He's still wet behind the ears. Okay.
That's right.
No, but seriously, like, what do you guys think of this?
Well, they've certainly been saying that a long time about the microbiome. So
this is just yet another.
Yeah, it's just one more thing. And that's a really good point, by the way, where you say, you know, if you don't mind your body falling apart, worry about your brain. It's all connected.
That's part of aging. That's what's part. Well, maybe not. You know, we were just talking last week about, you know, women who are having sex forestalling menopause, right? So is it about aging, or is it about how we treat our bodies? You know, just putting it out there.
Yeah. I mean, look, would you put cheap oil into your sports car? Would you put?
That's interesting. That's right. Never.
Never. You wouldn't even think of it, or.
Well, some people buy the cheap oil.
I really doubt it, you know, but most people would say, no way, you know.
If you had to choose, if you don't have a lot of money, mm-hmm. and you had to choose between premium, which is like, I think it's like now it's like $5, mm-hmm. and the cheap stuff, which is like what, $3.50, or was it $3.50, something like that?
Yeah. Okay.
You're gonna go with the $3.50, whether it's messing up your car or not.
Gas,
especially if you have a lease, because you don't own the vehicle and you're like, screw it. It's
you know what? I'm not so sure about this sports vehicle thing, because I'm like, I don't have a sports vehicle, so I'm just gonna put the cheap oil in. But maybe that's part of it. Like, you have to treat your body like a gorgeous sports vehicle, even if you don't feel like it's a gorgeous sports vehicle.
You've got to value your body.
Your body is a car that's going to last you for 90 years, hopefully.
Jack LaLanne said that the human body is designed to live to 100 plus years old. But
exactly. I mean, would you clean the Mona Lisa with Pledge? I mean, you know, and apologies to Pledge, but you know.
Also, have you noticed that all those really athletic types who really watch their diet, they really are sharper in the long run? You just see that. They're more dynamic. They're more alive. Like, have you guys noticed that with public figures in general? It seems like
they have access to information that the masses do not. Mm-hmm. And that's because they are in a position financially and mm-hmm. socially where that information is available to them. And I want people to take this information that mm-hmm. we're giving them and use it. Use it like you're a rich person, and take care of yourself. Yeah. Take care of your body. Take care of your mind.
Yeah.
I mean, you're right. Yes.
Yeah. I think, you know, if you're going to splurge on yourself, splurging on your diet is
absolutely
a primary thing. And a lot of people, you know, they don't view it that way because, quite frankly, when you buy food, it's not a durable thing. It's going to be gone in a week. Where if you buy a diamond, or you buy a bracelet,
or you buy a handbag,
you know, or TV or something, or a handbag again.
That's right.
For all the women out there, or shoes.
That's right.
It's gonna last me for years.
That's
for a long time. But food, it's only there for a week, or only there for a day.
And also, we talked about that cheap food is often the most addictive food too.
Yes. Because it has the most chemicals, the most additives, the most low grade
excitotoxins.
Yes, the most low grade ingredients, so that they can maximize profit and decrease spending. It's a shame, you know. So let's move on. I know you guys don't want to discuss COVID anymore.
It's relevant. We have to. It's important.
I think it's important, you know, given that the story we talked about a couple of weeks ago. Remember, I mentioned the clinic turning pregnant women away from their vaccines. COVID infection can attack placenta, triggering stillbirth. Pregnant women who are vaccinated against COVID-19 are at greater risk for delivering stillborn babies, and new research provides important clues about why. Unlike other fungal, bacterial, or viral infections which cross over the placenta to affect the fetus, SARS-CoV-2 is particularly lethal to the developing placenta, and this damage deprives the fetus of oxygen and nutrition, said study author Dr. David Schwartz, a perinatal pathologist in Atlanta. In November, the CDC reported that pregnant women with COVID are at increased risk for stillbirths, which is the loss of a baby before or during delivery. Swartz said the risk remains rare. To better understand why risk of stillbirth may be increased in expectant women with COVID, Schwartz and his team analyzed placentas from 64 stillbirths and 4 cases in which babies soon died right after birth.
Ugh.
All of the pregnant women were unvaccinated. Infected placentas showed increased levels of fibrin, a protein involved with blood clotting, and obstructed blood and oxygen flow to the placenta. All 68 of the placentas also had death of cells that comprised the major protective barrier between mother and fetus, and 66 of them had a buildup of inflammatory cells. By the way, placenta is chock full of, help me guys, come on.
Not the ACE2, the opposite.
Yes,
Is it the ACE2?
Yes,
Yes.
the ACE2
Oh,
placenta is chock full of ACE2 receptors.
oh.
I mean,
This is so sad.
it is sad.
God.
And I want this to be a wake-up call for all these women that are on the fence. I know everyone's sick of talking about COVID. I kind of am too.
No, right. But we just have fatigue, but it doesn't mean it shouldn't be addressed. We have to face it.
People are
Yeah.
still dying. Doctors are still burned
Yeah.
out. Hospitals
Yeah.
are still filling up with people, whether we talk about it or not, whether the
Right.
press-
We have to show up for them.
Yeah. You know, and these are preventable deaths. That's what makes this so remarkable right now. Like, we have all kinds of means. We have prophylaxis, we've got vaccines, we've got treatments, and people are still dying because they won't avail themselves. Listen, women, you have to think about your baby. I'll tell you this. Before I was pregnant, I was an anti-flu vaccine person because I was healthy and I figured that I'd just get it naturally.
Right.
But then I got pregnant, and you know what? I realized it's not about me anymore. And I started getting vaccinated. And you know what? I haven't had the flu since 8 years. I have not had a flu. I used to get
Wow.
every year, but I was healthy. I was young. I was like, my body's it's gonna be fine. I'll get my immunity that way. But you know what? I have not had one bout of flu in 8 years. Every year I have been healthy that I've had the flu vaccine. So just keep that in mind. What are you willing to do to keep your baby safe inside you and bring
Right. And I think that's what people want to know. They want, especially pregnant moms, want to make sure that that getting the vaccine is safe for their baby while they're pregnant. So that's what they're saying is that.
But women have to understand that we pass our immunity on to our children.
Right.
So you're not doing something that's going to be harmful to this is not like Zika virus where you have to,
right.
The baby's head shrinking or something like that. This is you inoculating yourself and passing that immunity onto your baby when you give birth to your baby. And what a loving gift to bring your baby into the world, not having to worry about losing your baby at the last second or your placenta degrading and your baby dying inside of you. I know it's macabre, and people don't like to think about that image.
But it's important.
Yeah, you need to think about it because that's the risk you run. It is rare, but it could happen.
Wait, I have a quick question. So really what they're saying is that because it affects the placenta, that's blocking and interfering with all nutrition.
Is how mommy feeds baby inside. It's not like
so they're not saying that the COVID-19, they're not saying that in this case, the 19 crossed the barrier.
Right. They did find some babies that had COVID
crossed.
They did have, but that's not what killed them. What killed them was basically the placenta.
The destruction of the placenta.
Right, which is where they get their oxygen and they get their food from.
Okay, that's differing from Zika, which crossed the barrier.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I know it's a horrible thing to think about it, but I need you to think about it.
Yes.
So should we take a break?
Yeah, let's take a break.
Okay, all right. So we'll take a break and we'll come right back. And listen, we have to talk about the fact that most Americans still don't know that alcohol is the cause of cancer. That's pretty scary. Most American adults remain unaware that alcohol is a cause of tens of thousands of cancer cases in the US every year. A new study shows that those who are unaware of the risk are far more likely to support warning labels and other policies that could highlight the link. This latest study supports previous research from the American Institute of Cancer Research, or AICR, and emphasizes the critical need to increase awareness of the alcohol cancer link. Alcohol is the strongest modifiable risk factor for cancer after tobacco use and excess body weight. AICR's research shows that alcohol increases the risk of at least 6 cancers, including colorectal, breast, esophageal, liver, stomach, and oral cancers. According to the study, less than a third of adults are aware that alcohol increases risk. Researchers used data from a nationally representative survey of close to 3,900 US adults who were surveyed by mail. When asked about specific alcoholic beverages, only 20% of respondents were aware that wine increases cancer risk. 25% said that beer does, and 31% associated cancer risk with liquor consumption. Research shows that any type of alcohol intake increases cancer risk, whether it is from wine, beer, or liquor. You know, I've talked about this before, and we're in for the battle of our lives. I'll be very honest with you here, because just like in the 50s and 60s, remember when everyone was smoking everywhere?
When people were smoking and it was healthy for you.
Yes, exactly. What Bertie, what was that king? There was a whole movie where his doctors told him that smoking was good for his stuttering, and it ended up took his life. King Albert, I think it was.
Wow, no kidding. Oh, the King's Speech?
Yes, the King's Speech. Thank you.
Wow.
Until one day we learned that, guess what? It's actually killing us. But, you know, everywhere we turn on TV, day or night, everyone is making a drink.
Especially they love to do the red wine business. It's full of polypropyl. It's full of all kinds of like great nutrition. The red wine, they're always promoting red wine.
Oh, you know, and mommy's going to have a little, it's glorified, man. It's like health drinks, like, for example, are like a punchline to make fun of a type of person, like, you know, the Valley girl, and she's drinking her green juice and she's like a joke. But I think that alcohol is so insidious. Everyone is drinking, even teens. And it's like, it's infuriating to see the glorification of alcohol. Like, how do we get away from it? What can we do? You know what I mean?
Do you think an alcohol is associated with being like a grown-up too, like sophistication? Do you think that was part of it? Like that whole Mad Men thing, the people of that era?
Days of Dynasty. Remember in Dynasty and shows like that, and then Mad
Men.
Yeah,
they always fixed a drink.
They always have a cocktail. And, you know, the soap operas, you see, you know, they have their little bar and they've got their little tumblers and they pour themselves a drink. And
it means you've arrived in the world of adults, sort of.
You know, and now it's like, it's everywhere. Like even on one of my favorite shows, Insecure, it's like cocktail time, girl. You know, and what happened is the alcohol industry has basically made drinks so tasty. It used to be that women didn't drink all that much.
Yeah, because remember it used to be like brown drinks. They were really like thick, like amber drinks, you know, that were like thick whiskey. It put like hair on your chest.
Yeah, exactly. Like they would drink it and they would go, ah. But it was manly, and it was like, you know, like
it was manly.
In the Western movies, and they would wipe their sleeve across their
nobody pretended that it tasted good, like
exactly, but it was about being a man. And then the alcohol industry was like, hey, we've got to get women involved in this, and they started making all these liqueurs, all these sweet tasting drinks,
girl drinks.
Yes, exactly. And now we have, you know, it's just become like a national pastime where everyone's falling down drunk, and it's funny and it's cute, and it's like shows dedicated to it.
Yeah, it adds to like a plot twist. Like it's an easy like plot twist for a show.
Can I tell you, I looked up online, I think it was a couple of years, because I just couldn't understand, like, what everywhere I turned, it was like alcohol. And I was like, does no one else notice this? Like, full disclosure, I'm a teetotaler. I think alcohol tastes disgusting. I don't drink it. I don't care how sweet you make it. There's nothing in the world that is going to make me put that thing in my mouth. It's just yucky.
Wait, are you telling me that like you never, like you wouldn't be into drinking like once a year, have a glass of wine or have like
I love a
sweet beverage?
mojito. I love a mojito on
Okay.
a vacation.
But you know not to do it because you're not
But
gonna
it's not
do that
something that I like seek out. Like I don't need
Yeah, me too.
I don't need, like on vacation, y'all enjoy some mojitos and stuff like that. Cause I'm just sitting by the pool or I'm sitting on the beach on a chair, just hanging out. But I mean, I'm not knocking them back. I'm also having water, but I do enjoy,
it's not a goal when you go out.
It's not part of like, you know how some people, they smoke and it's like, they wake up and they smoke and they're stressed and they smoke and they just had a meal and they have to smoke to relax. Some people drink like that. Like, I had a tough day. I need to drink. Oh, well, let's celebrate. Let's have drinks. It's just built into the culture so much that everything revolves around drinking. Oh, I'm socializing with my girls. I got to have cocktails with my girls. Even Sex and the City glorified that.
Oh my gosh, they sure do. Have you ever seen one where they aren't? Like, that's like essential to the plot.
That's what I'm saying. So I decided to look it up because I was curious. Why is drinking everywhere on TV?
It's viewed as glamorous, isn't it?
Well, what they said was it gives the actors something to do with their hands.
Oh, because it used to be smoking. Remember, like they would always like have a cigarette. They did something with their hands. Oh, it's a visual.
It's something to do with their hands. Exactly. So it's not. But you know, you don't see that on Broadway. You don't see Broadway shows. They're actually, you don't see them pulling out the card on Broadway and like,
but you know,
I need a drink.
They break out in song and dance instead.
Hey, you don't see it on operas. I mean,
in the movies, the person seems like they are like, you know, like we're all in the same room. The person is right there. I mean, this all starts with you know, Humphrey Bogart and John Wayne. Oh, John Wayne was always drinking like whiskey like it was water, and Bogart was always drinking, and he'd be unfazed. And then, you know, if you move to present day, John Hamm, even though it's set in the past,
right? Because
current norms are those people are drunk and ostracized and non-functional, blah blah blah.
Not really,
but
John Hamm became a sex symbol.
But he was playing a character in the 60s and 70s.
But he still became a sex symbol. Listen, it's amazing what makes people a sex symbol. That guy on that show that I watched, on Netflix, the guy who's like a killer.
And then got a lot of followers.
Oh my God. Women are obsessed with him. And
no.
You know what show I'm talking about? The guy who falls for these women, he becomes obsessed with them, he wins them over. And then any guy who's like a suitor or gets in his way, he just like slaughters the guy.
Oh Lord.
Yeah. It's actually a really good show because this guy's like super smart and he's actually like a decent guy because he doesn't kill innocent people. So he has a code.
So he has scruples.
He has like he won't murder innocent people. But if
his ethics aren't sketchy.
If you're a douchebag, he'll murder you. So it's kind of Dexterish, I guess, in a way. But
it sounds like Dexter, yeah.
Yeah. So many women are like obsessed with him. And I think at one point he had said on Twitter, you do know that my character's a murderer, right?
Oh, thank goodness. Thank you for bringing that up and pointing that out.
Penn Bagley, is his name Penn Bagley? I think something like that. I might be wrong. I'll have to look it up. But in any event, modern medicine just kind of papers over the issue with treatments and surgeries. So like all these young people are developing all these cancers now. And no one's saying to them, look, you've got to stop your alcohol consumption.
I have to tell you, I forgot that alcohol causes cancer. I just forgot all about that.
You at least
besides the thing, like I kind of forgot. I was preoccupied with like, okay, alcohol causes cardiovascular because of the diabetes, but I forgot all about the feature that I'm really glad you brought that up. That like had been erased from my mind. I forgot.
Last 4 or 5 years, I think, maybe 4 years, that ASCO finally came out because they kind of tiptoed into it. And they finally came out full-throated. ASCO is the American Society for Cancer and Oncology. Finally, full-throated came out and said, all alcohol is carcinogenic. all alcohol. But it took them years to get there, and like finally.
Also, hasn't there been an increase in people drinking at home with the pandemic?
Oh my gosh, yes. And now
so this is super timely.
And now in New York, they're actually thinking about, I don't know if they've approved it yet. Do you know if it's been approved yet, where they want to carry out alcohol? It used to be you could not have alcohol on the streets.
It's getting approved where you do have carry out.
Oh my God.
Certain places.
So you can
it is?
out drunk.
So you mean you can be like, as opposed to putting a brown bag around the bottle
you
and walking down the street like that?
And drink your cocktail and walk down the street and you're fine now. You're not going to get a ticket.
Yeah.
We're not in like Cancun, Mexico, where you can just waddle down the street with your giant like
you
mojito glass.
Yeah, now it sounds like.
Wow.
But the thing is, like, nobody's saying to these people who are enjoying their drinks, you probably shouldn't drink this much, or you probably shouldn't drink because this could lead to health problems down the line. Look,
you know what that article is saying, by the way? That article keeps saying, it's mentioning, all right, so it's a carcinogen, alcohol is a carcinogen, and they talk about how it's like colorectal, esophageal, liver, stomach, or so it's all like, except for the breast, it's like where the alcohol is directly being touching that tissue.
Esophageal, that's your throat. That's right. Your liver and your stomach, your mouth, oral cancers, colorectal, your butt. That's exactly right. Your entire digestive tract. Mm-hmm. That is what we're talking about here. So you're putting this poison into your body, and you're exposing your entire digestive tract to a carcinogen. We're screwed.
Wow.
Yes.
We're screwed.
I remember years ago thinking in terms of like just trying to maintain my weight back when I was like, before I ever had a weight issue. I just remember thinking, I don't want to drink my calories. I want to eat my calories, because I would always pick like a piece of cake over like a martini. Like that would have been like a no-brainer for me. Like if I had to pick, I was always going to pick food. But some people really will pick alcohol. They would not pick like a piece of cake over. This is really a bad choice. I'm not really making a good point here.
No, go ahead. I want to hear this.
Would you have like, if back in the day, if you were going to pick a treat, would you pick an alcoholic beverage or would you pick like a dessert? Like I would always choose dessert. Like, so that wasn't a hard choice for me to not drink.
Well, they're both equally addictive. So
that's true.
It's just one is kind of more socially accepted than the other.
One's more glamorous.
Yeah. And one doesn't have the like, you don't see people falling down and acting
from eating a piece of cake. Yeah.
Eating a piece of cake where you see
it doesn't impair your driving.
Right, exactly. It's just killing you slowly on the inside. But it's not socially unacceptable to have a dessert or a tart or a treat or ice cream. Mm-hmm. Like nobody's gonna cut you off if you have an entire cake. Like remember Chrissy from Three Condoms? Nobody's gonna cut you off at the bar and say, "That's it. You've had too much today."
That's enough dessert for you.
Yeah, it's not gonna happen. But it's just
the baker isn't gonna say like, "No, you have to step away."
This article is talking about labeling, and that's all good and well. But at the end of the day, I think people need to be aware and like really see the effects of what's happening. And there's too much glorification about it. There's just too much glorification of alcohol. There is.
Well, it kind of gets ingrained into your culture early on.
Yes.
It did a long time ago, because I'm going back now to the 70s and 80s and dating myself here in my career when I was very, very young, starting out.
Those were big drinking times, right?
Oh,
you dated yourself when you said 30 years ago you worked with
30 years ago. At the turn of the century of the year. But anyway, you would walk into an executive's office, and the higher up you went, the bigger your bar was. I mean,
wow!
A company, you had a full bar in there, and the first thing they would do is when you were having a meeting, everybody get offer a drink.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah. When I was going to
the liquid lunch.
Oh my God.
In Amsterdam, there was a tradition, I think they call it Geneva or something, I don't know.
Oh yeah, that Jonge Jenever. Jenever, yeah, that's the
Right.
gin.
Yeah, but what they would do is at 3 o'clock in a meeting, some dude would come in with a Heineken cart and gin and everything into the conference room, and everybody started drinking beers. And that
Oh
would be
my gosh.
that would be the end of the meeting. And this
How
was
did everyone function at the end of the
they
day?
didn't. They didn't.
The day's over.
The day was over. Here we were. These a lot of these were like top executives, CEOs, and everything.
Wow.
It's a business meeting, and then all of a sudden you get a beer cart brought in.
Wow.
And hey, look, you're a junior executive. You want to fit in.
Oh, you're not going to say no.
And I'm telling you, this night started out there. Then it went to a bar where everybody was comparing leather jackets, zero business doing, and then some idiot saying that he could run across the street in a busy street and not get hit by a car.
Oh my
And
God.
that's how drunk they were. And
Jesus.
Wow.
but this is like how it happened. And then the next day, it's like this never happened. Like you didn't speak of it or anything. You might joke about it a little bit.
Oh my gosh.
Like it didn't happen. And then some new adventure. But
Well, let me ask you, Lou,
yeah.
do you drink alcohol?
I do, but only occasionally, very occasionally.
So like a special occasion.
Well, a special occasion to me is, sometimes there are certain functions, especially at dinner, not as much at lunch now, but especially at dinner.
You used to drink at lunch?
Well, you came from the 3 martini era.
Wow.
People were.
And when you were invited to lunch, and all of a sudden it was a very, and look, I couldn't afford these places, but all of a sudden you're invited to the 21 Club,
Oh,
You're
wow.
all there.
It feels special, yeah.
CEO says, come on, guys, and let's go along. So you go there, and now you're part of the club, put quote marks on it, the club. The people that make decisions, and you're seen by your peers as you went out with the whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And at that time, it was the guys, because women were not even allowed into that club.
Oh, okay.
And look, I was the guy who carried the suitcases, all right, or the box. I was nothing. I was barely admitted into the club. And, you would go, you would start out with a drink. After you had the drink, you would then have a meal with a drink. And then after that, you would sit around and have drinks. And then nobody would return to work. Everybody would go their own way.
Holy hell.
So that was at least 3 big drinks.
That was at least 3 drinks. And this happened on an average of once a week. Not with me,
Wow.
but with the executives. And I was invited to these things maybe once a month. But it gave you an opportunity to express your views. It gave you an opportunity to discuss things I'm not going to call it a round table, because there was always a hierarchy. But the hierarchy and the lines of communications were a lot less.
A little more fluid then.
Yeah, a little more fluid. And you got, if there was a big hierarchy, you kind of got to the opportunity to cut across lines.
That's interesting.
Okay, that is.
It gave you corporate power, because people would say, hey, this guy's going out with those guys, so let me not drive him crazy, or let me just do what he says, because I don't want this guy not on my side, So that happened. Then there's the evening business drink, which many times could be with a total stranger, because you could say these are business acquaintances.
Uh-huh.
These are people you see 2-3 times a year. You don't really know, but you're here to do a big
So you
deal.
kind of have to socially drink at least.
So, but you start doing it, and it kind of does uninhibit you a little bit, and it makes the presentation go easier.
Okay.
Or the conversation go easier, or the night go easier. Now, what I will say is it then becomes a crutch. And
A slippery slope or a crutch?
Well, it does become a crutch, because then you say, well, if I'm going to have
I need to loosen up.
Let's say you're in sales. The more times you take people,
Gosh.
I'm nervous. I've got to have a little something to take the edge off.
They teach you early, face to face, gives you the most probability of sales. So you want to be face to face with your client. All right, this client's a stranger. what better way to get them to open up than to be in a position where you're both drinking? In addition to that, you may not be so confident yourself. Your livelihood depends on it. So I'm nervous. I need a drink maybe to get me over the edge. I got to be friendly with this person who I don't even know. I got to get to know this person. I got to give them a concept. I got to close them on the concept to get them close to closing. So the drinking helps. So all of a sudden, it becomes a crutch, and it's sort of like going to bat in baseball without your batting helmet. You may feel a little naked. There's a lot of things that you do. It's like going to a judo thing without your athletic cup if you're a man. It's a gross analogy, but it's sometimes much more.
You would be at a disadvantage if you didn't.
Well, you feel like you are at a disadvantage, but it's a bigger mental disadvantage than anything else. And then at night, everybody comes home, and especially back in the day when you actually went to work, now you work from home. But you go,
and people still drinking.
And the thing is, you want to transition from, okay, I took the subway, I spent 8 hours with people, now I took the subway again, or you drove the bus, or you drove home in traffic or whatever. It's never a pleasant experience. You've had a harried day, you want to relax, you want to unwind. Some people may go on the exercise bike, some people may, do whatever. A lot of people like to just have a drink. So all of a sudden,
there's a lot of that. There's a lot of that evening nightcap, or having a glass of wine to wind this evening.
These are just reasons why you get hooked on the stuff.
Yeah.
It's not the taste. It's not the, after a while, it's your body does crave it. There is an addiction factor to it if you do it, but it becomes a psychological thing. Oh, I need a drink to unwind. Oh, I need a drink,
Also, it looks like the day is framed around it. Like it's an essential passage throughout the day of things you gotta.
Right. So then the endorphin looks at it as, okay, I need to relax. And what do I do to relax? Oh, I have
and alcohol is a depressant.
Yeah. And it's not that instance, it knocks you down.
Yeah, that's what happened to Whitney Houston. She was taking, I forgot what drug she was taking, and then she had alcohol. She fell asleep in the bath. It wasn't the
man,
and falling asleep with these.
And then she slid down. Okay,
slid down into the bath, and that's she drowned in her bath, essentially.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it happens, and it's a you don't realize it's happening. But by the time you look at it and you say to yourself,
and how many drinks would you say that is over the course of a day? Let's say.
If you do the business lunch, then you do a client, and then you have another pop to go when you get home. That's a lot.
Well, how many?
I would
that
say
must be at least 5, right?
I was going to say, it sounds like 5 drinks in a day. That's a huge number.
You usually don't do all 3 in the same day. But it could be 5 in a day.
But here's the gag, though. Men actually, and look, I don't want to hear any gaff from anybody trying to, say I'm sexist or anything like that. The fact is that men process alcohol differently than women.
They do. They can take more. They can process more. And
women seem to be under this impression now that they can drink men under the table and they can drink just as much as men. No, you can't. You can't. It's not men blacking out at parties and getting assaulted. It's women. It's men drinking and getting blotto and having poor judgment, but it's women passing out and not remembering what happened to them. I mean, there's probably some roofies involved in that too. But my point is, I remember that happened to me, and I only had 2 glasses of wine. I passed out.
Wow.
Thank goodness I was with husband number 1, and he carried me home over his shoulder. But I blacked out after just 2 drinks.
Wow.
2 drinks. And I'm not saying that it's okay for men to drink and women not to drink. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying, think about in a business day where you have to drink 5 drinks just to make it through socially, and the effect that is going to have on a woman at some point during the day. And there are women who develop, tolerances and stuff like that, but it's just never going to be the same. It's never going to be the same. At least with cigarettes, the government stepped in and was like, you know what? Your product is killing people, so we're going to limit your ability to reach so many people.
Well, they took a different approach because with cigarettes, they were pretending that it wasn't bad for you. Whereas alcohol, they kind of like, well, it's not so good for you. Like they kind of said that from the get-go.
They don't need to pretend anything because most people don't know. They see it all over the screen. And
it's amazing to me.
So they don't need to say anything. They just need to have their label, on the show. And that's it. That's it. The work is done for them. So between the ASCO not putting the message out effectively to people that alcohol is carcinogenic, and the land of TV and movies glorifying it everywhere, that's what it has come down to. Like entertainment now, you can't be entertained unless there's alcohol. I remember the first college party I went to when I was in undergrad. And I went to the party. It was like at a bar. And everyone was standing around drinking. And I was like, this is a party? This is fun? Like
the goal was to nobody knew how to make small talk. Everybody.
There's hardly any music. No one's dancing. It's just everyone kind of standing around and drinking and like laughing at jokes that aren't funny. I was like, I'm out of here. This doesn't make makes no sense. So I don't know. I think we're in a no-win situation here. I just think we're screwed.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know. I wouldn't go that bad, but
I think the pendulum's going to swing. I think back in a different direction.
People are not dying of alcohol the way.
There's a lot of studies. All right, let's not get crazy here, because there's a lot of studies that say that one drink a day of red wine or very moderate controlled drinking actually prolongs life, not shortens it.
Yes, polyphenols, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, but so there are those.
But these are also.
But you can take your polyphenols. You can take polyphenols without it being alcohol. Like that would be great.
And also, these are in cultures where the food is not adulterated.
Right, it's mostly Mediterranean.
Yeah, that's true.
Diet, so of course, yes, it's going to add because it's not going to be the straw that breaks the camel's back. But in America, where our food is like highly processed and highly addictive and highly chemical and highly adulterated, to add alcohol to that, we're screwed.
It's just the cherry on the cake.
It's just the cherry on the cake. And with that, we're going to take another break, and I'm going to get myself together. I'm going to get my life, and we'll be back.
All right.
We're back. And some good news, at least after that depressing alcohol story. Calorie restriction trial reveals gene that may prolong healthy life. Laboratory studies of animals show that those fed a calorie restricted diet may live up to twice as long as those with an unrestricted diet. Now, a team led by researchers from Yale University has investigated the effects of calorie restriction in people. Their findings, which appear in Science, may eventually lead to new ways to extend healthy life. In animal studies, calorie reductions of 40% are common. However, as the authors of the new study explained, this affects growth, reproduction, and immunity. In the human study, calories were reduced by only 14%. Unlike many weight loss diets, a calorie-restricted diet involves small reductions of habitual calorie intake over a long period. People usually lose some weight, but this is not the main aim of calorie restriction. So let's look at how calorie restriction affects the body. The researchers looked at the effect of calorie restriction on the thymus gland, which is situated in the chest, just above the heart, and is part of the immune system. The thymus produces T cells, white blood cells that are essential for fighting infection. Hormones released by the thymus inhibit the aging process. You hear that, people? Inhibit the aging process. That means you won't age as quickly.
Who doesn't want that?
Exactly. That's why it's bore repeating. As people age, their thymus becomes fatty and smaller, and it produces fewer T cells. Older people are more susceptible to infections because of this reduced immunity. The scientists performed MRI scans on the participants' thymus glands. They found that those with calorie-restricted diets had greater functional thymus volume than those with unchanged diets. The thymus glands of the restricted diet were also less fatty and produced more T cells than those of the restricted diet group. The researchers then looked at body fat or adipose tissue, which is key to the functioning of the immune system. Some immune cells in this tissue can cause inflammatory responses when wrongly activated. They found changes in gene expression of adipose tissue, with some genes inhibited in those with restricted diets. The rest of the article gets more sciencey, so I'm going to spare you that. But the link will be available on urbanhealthweekly.com, so you can read through the entire article at your leisure. But the gene that they found is called the
PLA2G7.
PLA2G7. Thank you. I mean, what do you guys think? You know how I feel about calorie restriction, so I'm not going to hog the floor here.
Well, I'm a fan of calorie restriction and intermittent fasting. But, you know, I find like this study is really interesting because it says 14% reduction, which is really doable. We can all do 14%. That's not as much as you think. And also, it's interesting they talked about the thymus gland. I mean, we don't really hear about the thymus gland that often. Do you guys constantly read stuff about the thymus gland?
I'm not reading a lot of stuff about the thymus gland.
And this is just very exciting, this whole possibility.
So what would 14% caloric restriction look like? So it's 2,100 calories per day.
Yeah.
And if you take 14% off of that, Mr. Mathman, tell me what that is.
14%, so 10% would be 210. So 14% would be like 250 to 280.
Okay, so about 300 calories. What would be the equivalent so you don't have
a couple of yogurts for me?
You could have like 3 cookies out.
So basically you skip a snack. That's not...
You skip a snack. That's so doable.
I feel like that's just not enough. 14%.
No, but it's a start. I mean,
start. But here's the thing, right? Like, calorie restriction gives the body a chance to heal. Like, a lot of people don't realize that constantly eating is harmful to the body. Dr. Gundry talks about this all the time, how eating puts stress on the body and how having periods of fasting, you know, I'm getting into it now, so I wasn't going to. Gives the body the opportunity to work, to like the work of repairing other things since it's not busy all the time with processing food and digestion. So he says that at least a 12-hour daily fast would make a difference in your health over time. And one of the other important things that the article said is, when utilizing calorie restriction, it's important to convey to participants that because they are consuming less, the food calories should be coming from nutrient-dense sources. So in other words, let's not eat a piece of cake and call it a day and like, I'm restricting my calories. That's not
right.
We're talking about for the period that you are eating nutritious food, eating salads, eating fruits and vegetables, eating, baked meat, not fried chicken and that kind of stuff, like eating stuff as close to its natural state as possible.
And also eating a bigger variety of it. Try eating more vegetables, of different kinds of vegetables.
Christy Brinkley says she eats her diet is like the rainbow diet. Like she eats every color of the rainbow is what she does.
That's smart. And that's like easy to remember.
And genetics aside, she looks damn good. What's she like?
She looks phenomenal.
She looks amazing. I mean, not as amazing as Jennifer Lopez. She's like my idol, but for somebody who is a supermodel, she looks really, really freaking good. So take a cue from these people that are eating the rainbow of fresh fruits and vegetables and follow their lead. Like if you want to look as good as them, you want your hair to be shiny, you don't want your skin to be saggy and crepey. You don't want to have to buy like $150 bottles of cream to try to repair your skin. You want to do that stuff from the inside. You don't want to take a bunch of supplements. You want to eat your food. You want to make sure everything is fresh and everything is wholesome as much as possible.
Well, think of it this way. I have a different maybe approach to it. But if you eat a hamburger every day,
it's going to catch up with you.
It's going to catch up with you. But let's say there was nothing wrong with it. Let's say all you got to do is leave out the bun. And the bun is 100 calories. Or
Okay.
if it's a cheeseburger, leave out the cheese. So make it a hamburger.
How about leave out the cheese and the bun? Although
Well,
cheese can be good for
You
you.
know, so that's the type of sacrifice. It doesn't have to be a big deal. If you haven't,
Instead of putting it in a bun, how about putting it on a bed of lettuce?
there you go.
Oh yeah, they used to call that a California burger, right?
You don't have to.
Have they? I didn't know that.
You don't have
Yeah.
to make major sacrifices to your eating. You just have to say, okay, you know, and I'm just tricking the body here, and I'm just saying, okay, baby steps for the people that really have a problem with dieting. Okay, so if I have Chinese food once a week, leave out the rice. Just eat the food.
Yeah, that's what I do because that rice is really trouble.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's very doable, by the way. A little tiny tweak here and there, and
Exactly.
it's incremental.
You're looking at, because all you have to do is think of it this way: if you leave out the bun and you leave out the rice and you do that, you've now left out on the table maybe 1,000 calories. That 1,000 calories is what we're talking about a week. You know, it doesn't have to be 110 a day. We're talking about 1,000 calories a week. We're talking about 4,000 calories a month. That is 2 pounds of fat that your body has to go.
Wow. And you're not going to feel like you missed that if you didn't have a bun like
and
one
also,
day.
if you leave the ketchup off, which is additional sugar, like a tablespoon of ketchup is like, it's 2 teaspoons of sugar.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're leaving that off, I'm not sure how many calories that is. What is that, like 80 calories, 100 calories, something like that?
Also, change up your ketchup. You know, you could do that kind of thing because some have high fructose corn syrup.
Yeah, exactly. But in general, ketchup does have sugar. So I'm saying
Right.
leave off the ketchup and have honey mustard instead. And you're going to do better in terms of your sugar intake, which is going to reduce the caloric load.
Yeah.
Because you're going to be doing like a dressing instead of the ketchup, because ketchup and bun goes together.
Yeah.
You don't put ketchup on a salad.
Right. Lose 40 pounds for the year. But for the year goes with the 40 pounds. I intend to do it over the course of a year. I've already done in the first 2 months 12 of them. But
That's awesome.
well, thank you.
Congratulations.
Let's all applaud. But really, one of the few changes I made is in the mornings I used to have either a bagel or a muffin or something like that. I no longer do that.
That's great.
You know, and
So are you delaying your eating?
No, I just don't do it. It's like one less thing I eat.
That's great. That's very doable.
So I used to have my coffee with a muffin, sometimes with a bagel. Now I still go out to breakfast, and when I go out to breakfast, all bets are off. Maybe once a week, but
it's just once a week, so that's not terrible.
It's once a week versus 7 days. That's awesome.
5 or 6 days in a week, when I do sit down for a breakfast to get my day started and all of that, where I used to have a cup of coffee with a muffin or a cup of coffee with a bagel, that's out. That's all.
There's a bakery somewhere crying their eyes out. Who hasn't been there to buy their bagels?
So look at this thought exercise. Go to the bakery and look at 60 bagels and say to yourself, okay, what would happen to me if I ate all of this? How much weight would I lose? And then if you do the reverse of it, how much weight would you lose if those 60 bagels never entered your body? So you're not making a big sacrifice.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I've changed a couple of other things, and that's led to the 12 pounds. The 60 bagels are not going to lead to 12 pounds. But that's the type of change that I've made. I used to have, at night,
just small incremental stuff.
At night, I would have a big meal, but I would have 2 yogurts. I haven't cut out the yogurt entirely, but now I just have 1 yogurt. Over the course of 2 months, put 60 yogurts in your refrigerator and look at that. Over the course of the year, that's 360 yogurts. And really the point I'm trying to make here is we have to make these small adjustments.
That's right.
And the small adjustments over the course of a year are going to add up.
Lou, don't be stealing my line, okay? It's time for us to wrap up the show. And remember, you only have one life and one body. So do your best to make it count so your years are full of life and full of health. Small steps each day and you'll see a difference. Like Lou is trying to steal my line. I'm sure of it.
Yes, I read the notes.
That's all the time we have today, you guys. You guys are amazing as always. Can't wait to talk to you again next week.
All right.
Okay, bye.
Bye, guys.
Thanks for listening to Urban Health Weekly today. I hope you'll join me and my friends next week so you can stay informed and inspired to take control of your health. See you next time.